Hey everyone, welcome in to another daily editorial here on the KE Report, getting an update from Kootenay Silver. Some drill results that the company released back in September the 23rd. 5 drill holes focused at the Columba project, all around this D vein, which we have chatted about in prior interviews. We are chatting with Jim McDonald, President and CEO of Kootenay Silver. Company is traded on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol KTN and on the OTC markets under the symbol KOOYF. Now, Jim, 5 holes released. 3 were considered infill holes, but they were testing a large gap in past drilling, as well as 2 step-out holes to the east-southeast of that D vein. I am going to be posting the long section from that news release that shows really all the drilling, or pretty much all of the drilling, with the outlines of the results, grade and width wise, for all of you to refer to that. But Jim, just from a high level perspective, tell us what these 5 holes that you reported again September 23rd, what they're telling you about the continued growth of this D vein, please.
Well, 2 things. It expanded the total strike length of the vein itself, so it's growing in that aspect. And the second thing, it's showing an incredible continuity of this vein across its entire breadth, length, and depth. We had step-out holes extending the strike length of this from approximately 1070, 1080 meters to 1275 meters approximately in strike length. And then holes like 165, 166 continue to hit real broad, good grade. We're talking sort of 18 to 26 meter intervals, within which are 7 to 9 meter intervals of real high grade within it. And those holes were filling pretty large gaps that we had that were approximately 400 or 500 meters between what were very large step-out holes. So those are huge gaps in a vein system. And to drill in those larger gaps and still be hitting consistently is great news. It's just a very consistent mineralized shoot within this vein that's gotten quite large.
Yeah, Jim, it's nice to see those wide intercepts of good mineralization, filling in some of the gaps. And I guess just to that point, some of the other holes you drilled, like 167, 168, continue to hit the vein, extended the strike length of the D vein, but you're looking at some of the gaps below that at depth. And so maybe talk about the disparity of drilling that's there between 167 and 168 and 164, where you hit that good mineralization, and how there could be some opportunity there in that gap.
Yeah, well, you see in our long section a dotted line that's called the grade line. And that's the line which you start to see values appear, like good values appear as a rule of thumb. When you're above that, the values drop right off. Sometimes they can be anomalous. Like on the hole 135, you see in the far left of that long section, or with nothing at all when you're looking at these holes 148, 150, 133. So when we were drilling a long strike to expand the strike length, you see in that long section we're climbing a pretty big hill there. So we're going fairly deep. And the higher you go, the less evidence of that vein you have on surface. So it becomes more difficult to fix exactly where it is and if it's even continued. So we start, in that case, by drilling a few holes that are more exploratory, just to peg that vein down, see where it is exactly, and then go deeper. So when we're drilling around that dotted line, we don't really expect to be getting good grades. And sometimes you do. But our expectation is you got to be deeper than that grade line to be in the good grade. So you can have fabulous holes underneath you, and near surface, you'll have no silver at all. And when you look at hole 167, well, look at 163, for example, it's a nice hit. It's not a great hit. It's just a nice hit. And it's right at that grade line. But then when you go down 200 meters deeper, right directly underneath it, you've got that hole 164, an incredible 98-meter interval of over 200 grams, with 38 meters of that was 358. And then there was over 10 meters of half kilo, I think it was. Yeah, it was 12 meters a half kilo. So that's classic of these vein systems. It's classic epithermal vein system. And the thing about this one is that it's almost entirely preserved and intact in the place it was formed. Hardly any kind of post-mineral faulting going on or tilting. The erosional level has just exposed the top of that grade line in some areas. Most of the property hasn't exposed it. So whatever was deposited here is still here. And you can really see that on this long section. When you're drilling up higher up in elevation and up higher up in that hill, across your structure, you can hit the structure, you can hit good looking vein, in fact, but you really won't have any significant silver values in them. But get down below that and bang, you're in it.
Okay, a little more clarification here, and also referencing to the plan map or the map that shows where these drill holes are. I'll post that below the long section. We see 167, 168 out there on the far right of that map, and that 164 just to the left, as you've noted, with those much better results down at depth. We also see this B vein coming closer to the D vein. Even though you didn't hit really any significant grades in 167, 168, sounds like you're going to be drilling deeper here. Is there a potential that these two veins connect in some way, and that's what yielded that longer intercept in that 164 hole?
Quite possible. So they are connecting, and we'll be putting more holes to drill that area thoroughly. And that whole 164 is such a wide zone that we might be into it already there. But we don't have enough information to know that for sure. But it's very close. So it's practically in that intersection area. And that's probably why that whole 164 has such a wide zone in it. And so we need more drilling to confirm that. And we will be doing that.
Well, Jim, let's also talk about some of these holes that you still have because you've got a big drill program underway here. You're about halfway through it, but it sounds like there's a lot of drilling you still need to infill at depth and underneath some of the holes you've already drilled in the southeast. Maybe talk about what the balance of the holes will be there, and then I think you're also going to be pushing the depth component over in the northwest.
Oh, yeah, across the whole long section, that D vein will be pushing the depth component, definitely trying to get it down to 1,400 meters across the whole panel that you're looking at there, the strike of that vein. And so when you're looking at these holes right now, you'll see on the left-hand side, we've got a lot good density. We're like 50 to 75 meters overall spacing. And what we're looking at across the whole thing is to have approximately 100 meter spaces between holes or less. And so we'll be drilling a pattern of holes that will get us that approximate 100 meter spacing. And then that's enough, we believe, for at least getting an inferred resource category on a resource estimate, which is where we're going. We want to be at the end of this program of 20,000 meters. We want to be in a position to put that maiden resource out. So we're about halfway through that program. It will involve drilling this D vein at least 100 meter centers, and then also pushing it deeper to see how far it goes at depth. It's still wide open at depth, so it could get really interesting down there. And then we have that adjacent B vein that you showed on the plan map there that's converging with D. And that vein is pretty lightly drilled right now. We've got a better idea than we did before on how there's a couple of different veins within that panel and how we have a better idea how they're behaving. So the bottom, the long and short of it is we're going to be doing regular drill patterns along the length of that structure as well, and with enough density to be able to do a resource estimate, at least at the inferred level, in addition to D. And then the historically worked vein, which is called F, we've already got over 40 holes, crossed that down to 250 meter depth. And so there's enough drilling there for a resource estimate. At the end of this 20,000 meters, those three areas will have enough drilling for a maiden resource estimate. And so that's where we're at.
So for the D vein, getting down to that 100-meter spacings, will it be across this now 1,250-meter strike length?
Well, yeah. So it'll be pretty regular space drilling at 100 meters down to that kind of 14 or 1,500 meter, 1,450 above sea level at least. And then we'll see the results as we get them. And then we'll start to select some stronger step outs down to depth, even deeper. So underneath 1,400. And that'll be guided a little bit by the results. So these things will have shapes internally and they'll have fattened zones that are enriched. And those will have trends to them and they'll have trends as they go deeper. And that's what we want to aim for is where those things are going when we do go deeper. So it'll be the real deep holes that will do this program will be informed by the earlier results. So, we're going to do the more shallow, relatively more shallow holes first and work our way down.
Well, Jim, between the veins, like you say, last year you did a lot of the work at the F vein. This year's really been all about the D vein and now switching more to also incorporating the B vein into it. Those three veins together, of the three, is the D vein really the one that you think has the most potential, or are you still trying to figure out what the B vein has in comparison to, let's say, the F vein? I guess give us a holistic picture of how these three veins tie together. And I guess I should also ask, is there an A or a C vein?
Yeah, there are. If you look at our at our presentation, there's a map there showing highlights and across the property. And there's a vein system here that's 4 kilometers by 3 kilometers in rough size. And we've drilled a number of areas there. F and D are the most drilled by far right now. And that will be followed by the B vein. So to answer part of your question there, with regards to D vein, what we see so far is, yeah, that's going to be containing more ounces than we see in the F. The D is wider and at least as good a grade or better grade. In fact, the F vein actually has a blind discovery beside it. There's two veins there, and which will make up part of what we do with a resource estimate when we arrive there. But overall, the F is much narrower vein. It's got really good grade in it. And that's what was worked historically in the past. D vein was never touched. And then the B vein, well, we'll have to see. We'll do the drilling and see if it rivals D. And it would be fabulous if it did, because D is such an incredible vein. And then we've got multiple other veins that we haven't even drilled yet, and some which we have drilled that have some pretty interesting results, like 44 meters of over 300 and some grams per ton and 6 meters at 2 kilos. So those things have to be eventually followed up. And then there's a lot of vein that hasn't even been drilled yet. So there's a lot of work to do here, a lot of potential. That's why we're so excited about this project. Just the scope of what could be there is really big. The potential is really big.
So what's the timing on this whole program? The news release says you're about 9,000 meters through that 20,000-meter program. We've had 3 news releases so far announcing results from this program. How long do you expect all this drilling to take to run up to that 20,000 meters? And how long do you expect assays to be turned around?
Yeah, it'll take us to the end of the year. So we'll be drilling right up probably into December, I bet. And then assays will be, forthcoming more or less in a steady manner through that whole period. Turnarounds can be generally around 3 weeks right now. And so we want to finish this program, look at what we have, and then put out that maiden resource if the results are sufficient for that to happen. And certainly looking that way now.
Well, Jim, one more thing it'd be nice to have you unpack for people listening in is that in some of those holes you've already drilled that were shallow and you want to go deeper, you're also going to be utilizing directional drilling, which allows you to get kind of a fan approach and get multiple holes out of one mother hole. Maybe to speak to how that'll help not just with targeting, but also with efficiencies.
Well, it's a couple of things happen with that. It saves you a lot of drill footage, drilling rock that has nothing in it. So as you're going deeper, most of what you're drilling has got no mineral in it. So it's not mineralized, it's not vein. And you're drilling a long, long hole. You could be drilling 500 or 600 meters just across something that could be 5 to 10 meters wide. So with the directional drilling, it allows you to have like a master hole or a mother hole. You put one down, and then you can, off of that, you can do splays and fans off of that, like a Christmas tree branches coming off of that one hole. And every one of those branches or splays off of that mother hole, you're saving a whole bunch of drilling that you don't have to do just to get to your target. That's one thing. So saves you a lot of cost in the end. And the second thing is because you can aim that drill and how it's hitting your structure, you can flatten it into the structure or normal into the structure. So you can bring it closer to a 90-degree cut across the structure than you could just by simply putting an angle hole from surface and aiming it. So you get a lot better cut across that vein closer to the true width. And that's another big advantage to the directional drilling.
How about the company's financial position then, Jim? How much cash do you have? What's the overall budget for this program, please?
So we're rated about 7 million. The rest of the program will cost about 3.6 million. And so that's where we're at.
All right, Jim, thank you very much for this update. Again, Jim McDonald, President and CEO of Kootenay Silver, traded on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol KTN and on the OTC markets KOOYF. Again, be sure to check out those maps and long sections that I post below this interview and click the link in the show notes to visit the company's website and read over the full news release. Jim, thank you very much for the update today.
Thank you, Corey. Thanks, Chad.